Throughout 2024 and 2025, we were doing something incredibly inefficient. We were routing mundane daily requests, drafting a polite email to a boss, or generating a picture of a cat in a spacesuit, to the most powerful supercomputers on the planet. By outsourcing every tiny task, we turn these server farms into glorified subcontractor factories. This behavior pushed global power grids and massive cooling systems to their absolute thermal and electrical limits. We couldn't just process those requests locally on our phones because we hit a hard physical barrier called the memory wall. A 20 billion parameter AI requires over 10 gigabytes of constant active memory to function. These green sticks of RAM represent a rigid physical bottleneck. Since you can't magically stuff server-grade memory capacity into a half-inch thick phone, the industry accepted a basic rule. True AI had to live out there, in the cloud. But WWDC 2026 introduced a structural bypass to that exact physical memory requirement. Instead of trying to brute force the problem by cramming 20 gigabytes of physical RAM behind a glass screen, engineers decoupled the intelligence of the model from the physical size of the memory chips. By solving how a pocket-sized device handles a heavy software load, they change the way the world distributes its total computing power. The core idea is called on-demand architecture. Rather than forcing the entire AI model to stay active in the phone's memory, the system leaves the bulk of it dormant inside the storage drive. Think of the phone's storage as a massive bookcase holding a complete encyclopedia, and the active RAM as a very small desk. If you dump the entire bookcase onto the desk at once, the desk collapses. But if you only bring over the exact pages you are reading right now, the system handles it effortlessly. The catch is timing. For this to work seamlessly, the phone has to predict exactly which pages to pull from that massive bookcase in milliseconds, without accidentally grabbing useless data that would clutter the desk. It requires a predictive filter capable of mapping out the necessary neural pathways before the mathematical lifting even begins. That filter is an algorithm called IFP, or Instruction-Tuned Pruning. It acts like a highly competent secretary. If you ask a physics question, IFP predicts the physics-related neural pathways and pulls only those specific circuits, leaving the rest of the model behind. Next, it has to move that data quickly. Flash storage is naturally sluggish when reading scattered files. A technique called LLM in Flash groups the required data into massive, continuous chunks, sending them down a wide, streamlined pathway instead of trickling them out packet by packet. Finally, the payload gets lightened. A process known as extreme spersification identifies any negative calculations and simply drops them to zero. The chip physically ignores them, shrinking the data load by up to a third. Together, these three algorithms eliminate the need for brute force memory. They allow a highly constrained device to efficiently operate a massive model. To execute those specific software instructions without a stutter, bespoke hardware is required, the A19 Pro chip. This chip provides an ultra-wide memory bandwidth, a massive multi-lane highway that connects directly to an integrated GPU and NPU. This acts as an in-house expert, processing the incoming data instantly without hitting a traffic jam. The result is a private, off-grid AI system that runs locally on just a few watts of power, using natural heat dissipation. If the device in your pocket is now smart enough to handle daily chores like debugging code and summarizing emails, you don't need to ping an external server for help. Look at these sterilized aisles. Freed from mundane tasks, global data centers are transitioning from subcontractor factories to serious intellectual fortresses. Entire networks of supercomputers, like Colossus, are now being redirected toward actual moonshots. They are running PhD-level reasoning models, stabilizing fusion energy simulations, and mapping complex protein structures to cure diseases. By offloading our daily chores to the devices in our pockets, we effectively unlocked the global computational capacity required to tackle humanity's greatest existential threats. It mirrors the plot of the film Contact. Humanity was handed a complex blueprint, and we built a giant machine, preparing to step into a new environment. While society worries over job displacement or deepfakes, the actual trajectory points toward an era of post-scarcity. Inside these pristine labs, AI is performing the math required to solve bottlenecks in energy and raw materials. The technology has reached a point where physical hardware scale is no longer the primary constraint on what AI can solve. The remaining limit isn't silicon, It's how quickly we can adapt to a world where computation is no longer a scarce resource. A microscopic trick for managing memory inside a smartphone cleared the local hardware bottleneck. In doing so, it provided the computational push necessary to transition our species into a limitless, collaborative future.